afternoon, I'm Nadia Jani and you're watching A News. Let's see your headlines. Israel and the US have recalled their delegations from Gaza ceasefire talks. Iran and the European Three convene for another round of nuclear talks in Istanbul. And tensions remain high in Asia as Thailand and Cambodia exchange artillery fire. The United States and Israel have recalled their delegations from Gaza ceasefire talks in Doha for consultations. The US Special Envoy to the Middle East, Steve Witkoff, accused Hamas of failing to act in good faith, saying alternative options to secure the return of Israeli hostages are being considered. In response, Hamas expressed surprise at Witkoff's remarks, claiming its position had been welcomed by mediators and had opened the door to a comprehensive agreement. The move marks the latest setback in efforts to reach a ceasefire, free Israeli hostages and ease the continued humanitarian crisis in Gaza. Israeli protesters took to the streets in Tel Aviv on Thursday, calling for an end to the war in Gaza and the release of hostages.
Crowds filled the streets in Tel Aviv as tens of thousands of people protested on Thursday, urging the Israeli government to make a deal with Hamas to end the war in Gaza. The demonstrations come as both Israel and the United States pulled their delegations from ongoing ceasefire negotiations for further consultations. Protesters are continuing to demand the immediate return of hostages held by Hamas.
So tonight we're here because we're asking our government and Hamas end this war, bring all of the hostages back at one deal at once, bring all of the soldiers home, finish this war. We know that the negotiation is a little bit stuck somewhere, and we're asking all of the sides, please do the right thing, sit down, talk about it. Everything is solvable. Please finish the war. It's been enough. It's enough. We need this war to end. We need our lives back.
I am here to ask for the hostages to come back home. Gaza is not their place. Their place is nearby their families. This is the first thing. The second thing is to finish the war, because the hostages will not come back home until the war will be finished.
Meanwhile, several countries are urging for an end to the war to alleviate humanitarian situation in the Gaza Strip.
France will become the first G7 country to officially recognise a Palestinian state. President Emmanuel Macron confirmed the move will be announced at the United Nations General Assembly in September.
Home to Europe's largest Jewish and Muslim communities, France will become the first major Western country to recognise a Palestinian state. French President Emmanuel Macron made the announcement in a post on X, calling for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza and massive humanitarian aid for its people. Macron will make his decision official in September at the United Nations General Assembly, with the hope of bringing peace to the region. Palestinian officials welcome Macron's decision, calling it a step towards self-determination. A letter from Macron to Palestinian Authority President confirmed the recognition and outlined a vision for demilitarized Palestine that coexists with Israel. But Israel has reacted angrily. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu called the move a reward for terror, referencing the Hamas-led 7th of October attacks that killed 1,200 people. He warned a Palestinian state under current conditions would threaten Israel's security. The United States has also condemned the decision. Secretary of State Marco Rubio labeled it reckless, saying it empowers Hamas and undermines prospects for peace. Elsewhere, the move has been praised. Saudi Arabia said France's recognition affirms international consensus on the Palestinian cause, and Hamas called it a positive step. As the conflict continues, Aid agencies are warning of mass starvation amid ongoing restrictions on access to food and medical supplies. However, France's announcement is being seen as a diplomatic turning point, one that could reshape the West's approach to the conflict.
To delve deeper into the Israeli, US and Hamas talks and the recalling of delegates, I'm actually going to be joined today by Enrique Costero, a political analyst in Madrid. Hello.
Hello, how are you doing?
Good, thank you. My first question is, what do you think will now happen that talks have had to come to an abrupt end?
It's gonna be tough to say what's gonna happen, especially what we just saw on your report about France's recognition of Palestine as a state. But right now, I think that the quitting or the just step back from the United States, as Steve Wynkoop said yesterday, in walking away from the conversations in Doha. I think as the United States is giving sort of a period of time and for thinking to Hamas in order to leave the things as they are going and make Hamas feel the pressure. We know for sure part of the Israel population they do want the end of the war, which is as well another point of pressure for Bibi Netanyahu. But just leaving the war as it goes and leaving trying not opening any sort of exit or a way to peace talks and to negotiation. It's going to be, I think it's a lot of pressure for both factions, for as much for Israel as for Hamas. So probably we're going to see maybe in 2 weeks some trying to take over the conversations, because the situation is going to be probably impossible for that time.
In that sense, with all the pressure mounting, what will it take to actually end this war in Gaza, or at least release some of the hostages that Israel have been calling for?
Everything is going to go together. Probably the release of some hostages is going to be, as always has been, a sign for further peace talks, for further negotiation. And is the only thing that we know for sure that already Israel and Hamas they had agreed in something. So it's always like the breakfast for a big meal. It's always the first step in order to try to reach some sort of posterior agreement. So if there is any other hostages release, I wouldn't say that it's going to be abnormal, but also I wouldn't see it as sort of a hope signal. I don't see hostages release as a hope signal, because we've witnessed a lot of them, some of them. And right now we are in this impasse, in this completely blocked situation in order to get a ceasefire or even a truce.
And my last question goes back to obviously what France have done by acknowledging Palestinian as a state. Do you think other G7 countries will follow suit with that?
I think it's some sort is flawed by default. I mean, in 1947, the UN by 181 resolution determined that the Palestinian, both Palestinian and Israelis got the right to settle a state. Palestinians reject that. Palestinians have to reject that for 2 times more. I remember one in 98 and another one in 2004, 2006. And right now, any country, as France did or Spain did, in trying to recognize Palestine as a state, for me, from my point of view, goes nowhere, because it's sort of a nice recognition for the Palestinians, but I don't think that right now the government, the authority that governs Palestine, is sort of a puppet, is sort of a tele-directed government that does nothing without Hamas. So for me, that recognition, okay, it's fine. So diplomatic, trying to be neutral, trying to force and to stress and to push for a solution. But right now, the last word, as the other times were, the last word is going to be with Hamas and the Palestinian government. So I think it's a nice gesture. I think it's a sort of, as I said, a diplomatic and a sort of to the lights gesture. But I don't see that sort of declarations going nowhere.
Okay, thank you, Enrique Cosero. Efforts to revive the 2015 nuclear agreement have brought Iranian and European diplomats back to the table in Istanbul. This follows an earlier round held in May as part of efforts to keep dialogue open. Iran, the UK, France and Germany gathered behind closed doors at Iran's Consulate General. Vehicles were seen entering the compound earlier in the day. The dialogue follows a pause in talks after Iran-Israel escalation in June and comes at the request of European signatories seeking to continue the 2015 nuclear deal. At the end of the EU-China summit, leaders held frank talks on trade tensions and pledged closer cooperation on climate goals. Reporter William Denslow brings more from Brussels.
Speaking at a press conference at the conclusion of this EU-China summit, Antonio Costa, the European Council president, said that it was really an opportunity during this one-day affair to have open and frank exchanges with Chinese President Xi Jinping and Premier Li. There are a number of issues that the two sides do not see eye to eye on, chiefly the issue of trade. There have been increased trade tensions over recent months between two entities that account for roughly a third of global trade. The message from the EU has been that they believe that this trade relationship has become increasingly unbalanced, even unsustainable. The EU estimates that the trade deficit has doubled in the past decade, and now the deficit when it comes to goods equates to roughly $350 billion. Also, a big area that was discussed, foreign policy. The EU says it has talked to Chinese counterparts, urging them to use their influence and their position at the UN Security Council to try and force Russia into a lasting negotiated ceasefire and peace with Ukraine. But there are certainly areas where the two do see eye to eye, and that was chiefly the issues of the environment. That was reflected in the fact that the two sides did sign a joint statement. The message from both sides: green is the colour of China-EU cooperation. They want to see the COP30 in Brazil later this year be a success. They want to ensure more things like access to green technology in the future. They've pledged to work more closely on that issue at a bilateral level, as well as using their influence on the global stage. But of course, overshadowed with these talks were the differences between the two sides. Chiefly, that issue of trade was summed up by Antonio Costa, who said that this was a frank conversation, opportunity to have frank conversation. He says now, though, is incredibly important for the two sides to translate these conversations into meaningful actions going forward. William Denslow, Frey News, Brussels.
Thailand and Cambodia have continued to exchange heavy fire as their worst fighting in over a decade stretched into a second day. Both sides blame each other for starting the conflict on Thursday at a disputed bordered area, which quickly escalated from small arms fire to heavy shelling. Thai authorities say 100,000 people have been evacuated from the conflict zones, with military clashes reported in 2 provinces. While Cambodia has not released casualty figures, Thailand says at least 15 people have been killed and 46 wounded. Tragic details have surfaced about the downing of an Azal passenger jet near Grozny last December. A new investigation reveals a series of critical military errors, misidentifications and command decisions that led to the strike and a possible cover-up. Here's the full breakdown of how it unfolded.
New details have emerged regarding to the Azal Embraer 190 flight, which was shot down by Russian Air Defense Forces on December 25, 2024. Minval Politica shared the operational chronology of the strike. A military chain of command, radar tracking, protocols, and orders lead to the downing of the plane, killing 38 of the 67 people on board. On that day, Azal Embraer 190 flight was en route from Baku to Grozny. However, hours before the takeoff, at 03:26 across Russia's North Caucasus Federal District, a drone threat alert was declared. Colonel Gennady Eremenko passed the alert to Lieutenant Colonel Nikolai Orliansky from the 51st Air Defense Division. At 8:05, a higher-level carpet warning plan was introduced in North Ossetia Alania. That meant the airspace was restricted to military aircrafts only. Minutes later, Major General Alexander Tolopilo expanded this no-fly zone to a 50-kilometer radius around Grozny Airport. Embraer 190 was already in that zone, however, no warnings issued. Radar data shows that the Azal flight was being tracked reliably until 0809, but as it began its descent into Grozny, radar contact was briefly lost. For 4 crucial minutes, between 8:09 and 8:13, the plane was invisible to Russian air defense systems. At 0812, a Pantsir S air defense crew stationed near Grozny reported a small object in the sky, assumed to be a drone. Based on this mistaken assumption, and without radar confirmation, Major General Tolopilo issued a direct phone call to Colonel Orliansky of the 51st Air Defense Division, ordering to destroy the target. The order was relayed to Captain Dmitry Palachiuk. At 8:13:27, the first missile was launched. 21 seconds later, the second followed. Both struck the civilian aircraft, heavily damaging it. According to internal documents cited by Minval Politica, Major General Tolopilo later distorted radar and missile logs, falsely claiming the weapons self-destructed in flight. If the commander's accounts are true, the decision to strike was made without considering the lost radar contact with the Embraer 190. Despite the loss of civilian lives, no independent investigation followed. Tolopilo was not dismissed or prosecuted, but rather reassigned to a new post in Russia's Eastern Military District. As of now, no one has been held accountable for the incident.
Azerbaijan's President Ilham Aliyev has sent a letter of condolence to Russia's Vladimir Putin following the deadly plane crash in Russia's Far East. Aliyev said he was deeply saddened by the loss of life and extended sympathy to the victims' families on behalf of the Azerbaijani people. According to the emergency service reports, all people aboard the flight that crashed in Russia's Amur region are believed to have died. To unpack this, I'm joined by Shujat Ahmedzadeh, an independent researcher based in Baku. Good to have you, Shujat.
Thank you.
My first question is, all the available evidence and the information coming from Russia seem to indicate that tensions are there to persist. Still, President Aliyev sent a message of condolence to the Russian president. Is that significant?
Sure, it is, because it also shows the fact that Azerbaijan still wants to maintain friendly neighborhood relations with Russia. The manifestation of which is the most recent condolences letter, though it does not evolve into a solution per se for the political dispute that we have as of right now between Baku and Moscow, which concerns a wide array of issues, including but not limited to the airplane crash, the detention of Azerbaijani diaspora activists and members and leaders across Russia, specifically in Yekaterinburg, and to a degree other things that informally have been raised so far by Azerbaijani side, which also concern the cyber attacks and many other issues.
I see. And what could be an honourable exit strategy for Russia, which traditionally doesn't apologise for incidents or tragedies of this kind?
I think the answer is, as the answer lies in the question that you asked, the exit strategy, the pragmatic one, and the very realpolitik one, would have been just apology and legal appraisal of this incident, which includes, which should include actually, not includes, but should include the necessary legal appraisal for those responsible on a very micro level of this accident or this strike or this tragedy. But this never happened. I think that's why any exit strategy should go back and concern this. But unfortunately, we're not seeing any exit strategy. But on the other hand, we're seeing something completely different, that is rather deliberate escalatory attempt to make actually things worse than they are now.
And where do you place President Aliyev's support for Ukraine's territorial integrity, which he reiterated at the Shisha Global Media Forum as part of the Kremlin's visible decreased satisfaction with Baku?
Well, substantive-wise, I don't think that we should read it as a completely new foreign policy shift in Azerbaijan, because I remember even in the first year of the war between Russia and Ukraine in 2022, we had exactly the same statement coming from Baku, saying that exactly this, in the same format, not in the media forum, but on a think tank forum. It was articulated that Ukraine should not reconcile with the loss of territories. So, as far as the statement is concerned, it's not a new statement. But the fact that it is being also mentioned quite openly and clearly again, also in front of the media representatives that from Russia were present, once again shows that Azerbaijan would not just be coerced by both formal and informal pressure mechanisms emerging from Moscow, and which does not affect its Ukraine policy. I think it has always been the same. That is, Azerbaijan supports territorial integrity of Ukraine.
Thank you for joining us today, Shajat. As Day 3 of IDEF 2025 comes to a close, the Defence Fair exhibition continues to make headlines with its major weapons showcases and international cooperation deals. Our Nurey Mustafa brings us more from Istanbul.
IDEF 2025, the 17th International Defense Industry Fair, recognized as one of the most prestigious events in the global defense sector, has entered its third day in Istanbul, Turkey. The exhibition brings together leading companies in the defense and security industries, government decision makers, and international delegations. This year, the fair hosts representatives from more than 55 countries, over the 850 companies, and numerous government institutions. Organizers view these figures as a reflection of Turkey's growing global role in the defense industry and the rising international prestige of the IDF platform. Within the scope of IDF 2025, cutting-edge technologies such as unmanned combat systems, indigenously produced armed vehicles, smart weapon platforms, cybersecurity solutions, and AI-based surveillance systems are being showcased. In addition to product displays, a number of bilateral and multilateral meetings, strategic cooperation discussions, and industrial briefings have taken place. Turkey's major defense companies, particularly Baykar, Aselsan, and Roketsan, are presenting their latest projects at this year's event. Notably, a new agreement has also been signed between Roketsan and Turksat, marking a significant step in space and satellite technology cooperation. In an exclusive interview with A News, Roketsan General Manager Murat İkinci provided detailed insights into key projects, underlining their regional, technological, and strategic importance.
Especially in the fields of ballistic missile technologies and air defense technologies, we announced new projects. These projects are actually very important technologies in today's warfare environment, both to ensure national security and to neutralize countermeasures. Roketsan, with its products in this area, contributes both to friendly and brotherly countries and to the defense of our own country.
ülkemizin savunmasına katkı yapıyor.
Peki uluslararası ilişkiler
So what is the significance of IDEF in terms of international relations? What are Roketsan's plans and goals?
planları neler, hedefler neler?
Aslında uluslararası ilişkiler alanında burada birçok
Actually, in the field of international relations, we signed many projects here. In particular, we made agreements called strategic partnerships with many countries that act together with Turkey around the world. In this context, IDEF is a platform for us, a platform where international collaborations are realized. Hopefully, with the contribution of this platform, we will continue to support developments in the global defense industry and engage in joint collaborations together.
desteklemeye ve beraber işbirlikleri yapmaya devam edeceğiz.
Despite being only the third day, the exhibition was drawn substantial attention from both local and international stakeholders. A number of new documents and cooperation agreements have been signed between various countries and companies. Reporting from Istanbul, Nuray Mustafa, Zöhrab Shirinov for A News.
At the Defence Exhibition in Istanbul, Turkish Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan gave an exclusive interview to our reporter Nuray Mustafa. Fidan spoke on Azerbaijan's strides in defence technology, regional cooperation and the possible opening of a Zangezur corridor.
I would like to send my warm greetings to our brothers in Azerbaijan. I also visited the Azerbaijan stand here. Due to my previous job, I was already familiar with Azerbaijan's defense industry products. But over the years, I've seen that Azerbaijan has really advanced itself. It now produces very modern and highly advanced weapons systems and defense industry systems. And there is also a very strong cooperation with the Turkish defense industry. I congratulate Azerbaijan and all our Azerbaijani brothers on their achievements, wishing them continued success.
What are your expectations if relations with Armenia improve and the Zangezur corridor is eventually opened?
As you know, President Aliyev and his counterparts are working intensively on this issue. We are also in close cooperation and consultation. Hopefully we will see progress here soon, together. Thank you very much.
Turkey is launching work on the Kazikder-Nakhchivan route and remains hopeful about the opening of the Zangezur corridor. Turkish Transport Minister says talks are underway and a direct link to the Turkic world could soon become a reality.
Of course, transport corridors are important for us. You are already carrying out construction work on the Azerbaijani side, both rail and road. We are also starting this year on the Kars-Idar-Nakhchivan route. The credit agreement is finalized. What remains in between? The Zangezur corridor with Nakhchivan. On that, Azerbaijan and Armenia are holding the necessary negotiations. We too are making efforts to contribute constructively to this process. I believe this issue will be resolved without too much delay and hope we will open a more direct and shorter corridor to the Turkic world.
Amid trade tensions between Kabul and Islamabad, a breakthrough seems to have been reached. Afghanistan's Ministry of Industry and Commerce has announced the signing of a preferential trade agreement with Pakistan. Artamim Bahis has more from Kabul.
The agreement was finalized during a two-day official visit by a high-level Afghan delegation led by Deputy Minister Ahmadullah Zahid. Under the agreement, 4 key Afghan agriculture products, grapes, apples, pomegranates and tomatoes will be exported to Pakistan under preferential tariffs. In return, Pakistan will export bananas, mangoes, potatoes and mandarins to Afghanistan under similar terms. Officials say the aim is to lower cost, streamline customs processes and support farmers and traders on both sides of the border. The ambassador of Afghanistan in Islamabad confirmed that the agreement will be valid for 1 year and can be extended by mutual consent. He also noted that more products could be included in future phases of the deal. In addition to the tariff deal, several other key outcomes were announced. The Angul-Ada border crossing is scheduled to reopen by end of August 2025. Technical talks have begun on reviving the Afghanistan-Pakistan Transit Trade Agreement, and both countries have agreed to hold joint trade exhibitions. The two sides also discussed ways to expand Afghan coal export, promote the carpet industry, and improve logistics for Afghan goods passing through Karachi port. This visit is being seen as a significant step toward rebuilding regional trade ties and advancing Afghanistan's broader economic development agenda, despite ongoing political tensions. This is Tamim Bahis in Kabul for A News.
Uzbekistan's Energy Ministry, Azerbaijan Soccer and Uzbek Nefgas have signed a production sharing agreement for hydrocarbon exploration and production in the Ozyurt region. Under the deal, 3D seismic surveys will be carried out over an area of at least 1,000 square kilometers, followed by exploratory drilling of one well. If commercial reserves are found, the project will move into development and production. Concerns over a potential disruption of Kazakh oil exports through the Black Sea have emerged due to a new Russian port regulations and Western sanctions. Kazakhstan's Energy Ministry says shipments are continuing as usual. Our Fariza Kalamazona has more.
Kazakhstan's Ministry of Energy has denied reports that Russia has halted the shipment of Kazakh oil through its Black Sea ports due to restrictions on foreign tankers. In an official statement to A News, the ministry confirmed that oil exports through Russian seaports are continuing as normal. However, officials clarified that Kaztrans-Oil, the national company overseeing oil exports, is currently addressing the situation at the port of Ust-Luga, where additional security measures are being introduced to protect critical transport infrastructure. Earlier, Reuters reported that foreign oil tankers had been temporarily barred from loading at key Russian Black Sea ports under new regulatory rules. The report suggested that this could effectively block Kazakh oil exports, which largely rely on a consortium involving Western energy firms. According to Reuters, the restrictions also affecting Russian oil shipments from the port of Novorossiysk could lead to a drop in global oil supply by more than 2%. These developments come amid the European Union's latest round of sanctions against Russia. Earlier this week, President Vladimir Putin signed a law requiring foreign vessels to obtain clearance from Russia's Federal Security Service before entering the country's ports. The law was signed just days after the European Union adopted its 18th package of sanctions targeting tankers carrying Russian oil and lowering the oil price cap from $60 to $47.60 per barrel. So far, neither the Caspian Pipeline Consortium nor Russia's Ministry of Transport has commented on the reported suspension. Meanwhile, Kazakhstan exports more than 80% of its oil via the CPC pipeline, which terminates at the Russian port of Yuzhnaya Ozerovka. In recent years, oil flows through this route have been interrupted multiple times. In response, Kazakh authorities have emphasized the need to diversify export routes, identifying the Trans-Caspian corridor as a key alternative. Still, despite geopolitical challenges, the Caspian pipeline remains the country's primary oil export channel. Fariza Kalimurzina, A News, Almaty, Kazakhstan.
That's all we have for now. Thank you for watching and stay tuned to A News.